Hey gamers, Maniac here with GameAccess.net. Continuing the discussion I started last week, we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 4, and this time we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 4's games. Because what better to sell a system than to show off some games, and that's exactly what Sony did at their press conference. They spent half the time talking about the hardware, which I covered in the previous part, with no reason to go into it again. But for the other half of the event, they showed some of the games that they were talking about. Now, I'm going to be the first to say, I'll be the first to say, that Sony is actually a really good first-party developer on their own hardware. And to be perfectly honest, Sony is quite capable of holding their own about, when it comes down to creating exclusive titles that's only on their platform. Whether it be the Infamous series, of course the God of War series, the Killzone series, which I haven't played, the Resistance series, Ratchet and Clank, all these exclusive series to their platform are good. Are good. They merit. It's worthy of a powerhouse system. It's worthy. They're worthy platforms. They're worthy series. And if you would have thought, how do I sell this new system? How do I show off how this new system, how powerful this new system is? Well, what you do is you take a familiar character or a familiar franchise and you re-envision it and recreate it for the new platform. Whether it be, in most cases, it's just as simple as saying, oh yeah, we've got a sequel to this classic game coming out, and here's how it looks on the new hardware. I mean, Microsoft did it with the Halo series and the Perfect Dark series, although it was more successful on the Halo series. For the PlayStation 2, of course, Metal Gear Solid 2 versus Metal Gear Solid 1. That was a couple of years ago, of course, but, it's a valid thing. You want to show off what's coming out on your new system to kind of get a gauge of it. You take the classic properties that you had on your current platforms and you show how they look on this new system. That's how you get people excited. It doesn't take a good, you don't have to read out a spec sheet, although guys like me appreciate it, of course. You don't have to read out a spec sheet. Just show us how good the new games look. And it helps if we have a framework to compare it to. Well, I have to admit that Sony really lost a lot of opportunity. Because out of all, they only showed about 5 games, I believe. 2 of them were multi-platform. So we've already seen them on others, see how they look on other systems, on current gen systems, and on PC, in the case of Watch Dogs. So there's no real wow factor there on those platforms. We didn't really see we didn't really see what this new stuff is going to be. We've already seen Watch Dogs. We've already seen how great Watch Dogs is going to look. In some cases, we've already seen how great Destiny is going to look, that Bungie's working on. That's already been on the Vidoc. So all they really showed was footage of, I'm trying to remember how the word is pronounced. Not Frank, Knack. We saw Knack. We saw Drive Club. We saw the new Killzone game. And we saw some technology that was being developed by other developers like Media Molecule, and the problem was that some of the stuff that was really going into, now this could have been a limitation of the feed that I saw, didn't really look that much more impressive than what's currently on the PlayStation 3. And I know that there were a lot of people tweeting about this during the presentation, and have tweeted about this, particularly Killzone. If you had said that Killzone demo that people saw was something that was on a PlayStation 4, they would probably just look at you and say, it kind of looks like how Killzone looks on the PS3, or that looks like something the PS3 would be able to do. It didn't really have the heavy wow factor. Now, don't get me wrong, this could have been a limitation of the feed that I watched, and that's not Sony's fault, but I really had to watch this on a low definition feed just to make sure that I saw everything. But a lot of people were echoing. Now, we could be at a problem where there's just a strict limitation as to what can be displayed on the screens or what can be read by our screens. For all we know, these could be at 2K screens or something like that, 2K HD, 4K HD screens. We're looking at these images in 480 and 360 and stuff like that. There could be a quality loss there, of course, but I just don't know. I think that they had a seriously lost opportunity to show something, from their major properties. A lot of people kind of assumed that there was going to be a God of War showing there. Now, we know that God of War Ascension is coming out for the PlayStation 3. There's no surprise there. It'll be out next month. But a lot of people were tweeting that there was some talk that there was going to be a God of War showing. There was no God of War showing. All we saw was either stock footage or we heard the classic music for some reason. Some of the other developers that were there didn't really have a show, didn't really have a game to show, just some of the technology that they were dabbling with. Or in some cases, game technology we already saw. So for the most part, the only two games that really stood out to show an evolutionary leap, only two. One was Infamous, which didn't show a game, although it had a great introduction and a cool trailer. All it showed was a pre-rendered trailer and a really cool introduction. No real actual gameplay there. And the Killzone game, which again, given what the feeds we were getting, didn't really show that much of a graphical leap over what we had already seen. What was interesting enough was, in a previous Killzone game, so it didn't really seem like an evolutionary game, more just like, it kind of looked like what could be on the PS3. However, there was some stuff that some of the developers were dabbling with that actually did look interesting, but of course they had no game to back it up. The guys who are working on Beyond right now, and director David Cage, showed off the technology that they were working on for the PlayStation 4's a facial render, a skin texture render. In fact, Media Molecule asked if they could borrow it. That looked really good, but that was just a human face. He had no game to back it. Now, I totally understand. David Cage was busy working on Beyond, and in fact, I was surprised that he was there at the event. I was pleased that he was there at the event. But, so it looks like right now they're still trying to work on finishing up with Beyond, and then probably after Beyond ships, they're going to start working on PlayStation 4 technology. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's fine. I just wish that David Cage had showed a bit more, or maybe teased that they were working on a game. Maybe showed some footage of what they were working on for their next major title that would be coming after Beyond. That would have been interesting. Also noticed that Remedy wasn't there. They had a lot of the other independent developers there. It would have been nice if Remedy had appeared. But in all likelihood, and this is something that some of my other Remedy fans, I love Remedy, but I don't know, something tells me that if Remedy was not there at that event, it was probably because what they're working on. Now, we know that Remedy, by the way, are the guys who made the original first two Max Payne games, and they made Alan Wake, and they're doing some iPhone games. They are working on a future generation console. Their next title, which is unannounced currently, is a future generation title. It would have been interesting if they were working on the PlayStation 4, that they would have been there at the launch event. They weren't. Now, this could have been because they're not working on a PlayStation 4 game at all, or it could have been because they just either, they just could have had nothing to show, or they just were cut for time. But there were some developers that had nothing to show that did make appearances. So I don't know. I just kind of felt like if Remedy wasn't there, there was something. There were plenty of developers that were there. Independents, major publishers were there. Activision was there. Ubisoft was there. They were showing off Bungie, of course, and Watch Dogs. Activision was showing off Bungie, and Ubisoft was showing off Watch Dogs. So the publishers are certainly there. They also listed LucasArts in the thing of like what developers are working on. So LucasArts is probably working on a game. The heavy money's on Star Wars 1313 coming to the PlayStation 4 because I saw that LucasArts logo. I was looking for others, but I didn't quite see them on that logo. It kind of screened by a little fast. A lot of images there. Who knows, right? Who knows? Like I said, if they really wanted to do something cool, I wish they had shown off the next God of War game. It would have been nice to see a live demo of that Infamous game, but, what can you do? But there were plenty of other major developers that could have appeared. They showed footage of Heavenly Sword, and they brought out the guy who was the head of Ninja Theory, or I believe, no, I'm sorry, they didn't bring out the guy who was Ninja Theory, but they did mention that Ninja Theory was working with them on the technology. So Something tells me that possibly they could be saving Heavenly Sword 2 for PS4, but that's just my own personal speculation. Don't take it to the bank. But like I said, Ninja Theory was listed in that list of developers. It would make sense if they were to do a Heavenly Sword 2. I would certainly play it. I'm not saying I would get a PS4 for it, but it was something I remember picking up on the PlayStation 3 at around the same time I got the PS3. Who knows? And, for your information, I did like Enslaved. And no, I haven't played Devil May Cry yet. So, don't get me wrong. There were some games out there that did look quite impressive, like Knack, for example, which was the first game that they showed off, which was to kind of show off the new technology. The enhanced processor did allow for having a lot of objects on screen and stuff like that, and having realistic physics, more improved physics systems with the Havoc system and stuff like that. That all looked very interesting. However, Knack chose to use a cartoonish type cell shading system, so they were going for more of an artistic approach. Not really that much to say. But it definitely looked like you could handle stuff behind the scenes as opposed to in front of the scenes. That is interesting. That is very interesting alone. So Knack alone has something to it. If they're able to render multiple objects, and we saw this with the Unreal Engine 4 demo, the ability to use multiple objects and have realistic physics with all of these objects on screen, it's definitely going to help developers out. But visually, what we saw for those games really didn't really scream out to me. And I had wished that they showed more first-party exclusive sequels. Don't get me wrong, it's nice that they're doing some new stuff, but I don't know, it just seemed like a missed opportunity. If you really wanted to show what your game was, what games you were working on, and what the power of this was, why didn't you, it would have just made sense to show real-time and a bunch of your classic properties that are exclusive to your system and will be exclusive to your next system, and see the evolutionary leap that your technology has. That would have been, to me, the best way you could have sold me on the system. As such, I'm still adopting a wait and see. So those are just my thoughts. The games don't look bad at all, but I don't know. What I saw wasn't a system seller for me. The hardware definitely is interesting. I wish they had showed more of their exclusive properties, because I like their exclusive franchises. I really do. I would have wished they had shown more. Would have been nice to have an Uncharted game shown. It would have been nice to have shown a God of War game. It would have been nice to see Heavenly Sword back. I would have been taken for that. As such, we had Killzone and Infamous. I don't know if that was enough. Well, take for that what you will, guys. Until next time, this is what I think of that. PlayStation 4 is coming fall 2013. Until next time, guys, this is Maniac with GameAccess.net. Over and out.